Good morning. My name is Tracy VanHoutan. I'm founder of the Noah's Hope Batten Disease Research Fund and board member of the Batten Disease Support and Research Association, the largest organization in the world dedicated to support of family and scientific research into a group of diseases commonly known as Batten disease. I'd like to thank the organizers at the FDA for their thoughtfulness in putting together these meetings and including these groups in the Inborn Areas of Metabolism meeting. Two of my three children have a neurodegenerative lysosomal storage disorder called late infantile neuronal ceroid lipofuscinosis, more commonly known as late infantile Batten disease. Over time, due to severe brain atrophy caused by waste buildup in the brain, affected children suffer mental impairment, worsening seizures, progressive loss of sight and motor skills, and eventually children with Batten disease become blind, bedridden, tube-fed, unable to communicate. Presently, it is always fatal, usually between the ages of 8 and 12. My daughter Lane is currently 8, and my son Noah is 10. To pick just a few of the symptoms is difficult because my children have experienced losing everything, and I truly mean everything. They started life as happy, normal kids. They ran and played, talked just like normal kids, read books, had many friends and playmates, and hit all of their milestones appropriately. But all that began to change at about age 3.5, when the seizures and some other symptoms began. I'm going to speak on a few of these symptoms, first being seizures. This is the symptom that has been with us the longest amount of time. Because of the progressive nature of Batten disease, we continue to adjust the anti-seizure meds. We never decrease meds and often add new medications on top of old, as my children reach the safety limits of their old ones. As many of you know, these anti-seizure meds have serious sedating and other side effects. Sometimes we're not sure if the children have lost abilities due to the disease or because of the many side effects of these drugs. And as many parents in the room here know, your child having a seizure exhausts their small bodies, adds damage to their brains, and leaves us as parents feeling helpless and terrified. Another symptom is loss of sight. People who have seizures often report not remembering the seizure episode, but when you're talking about the symptom of losing your sight, it's an entirely different matter. Noah and Lane were and are scared of the darkness that surrounds them. Noah had lost his ability to speak when his world went dark, but Lane was still verbal as her sight gradually disappeared, and she was terrified and would often cry to us, asking us if she would become like Noah. So the third symptom I'm going to speak about encompasses a few different things, being loss of all motor function. It's a broad category and affects every part of our lives and the lives of our children. Ataxia was one of the early symptoms and led us as parents to restrict the last remaining freedoms our children had. Physical and occupational therapy, padded helmets, and adding padding to other items in the home only did so much. Our children's frustration was apparent as they continued to lose motor function. Eventually, both Noah and Lane became totally immobile and wheelchair-bound. This has affected us greatly as parents. We had to sell our home to find one that was more accessible for the children and their growing list of equipment. The toll of continued lifting and carrying of Noah and Lane, including bathing, has taken its toll on our bodies and my wife and I, and we are now regulars at our local chiropractor and physical therapy clinics. In addition to this, they lost the ability to speak. This too has been devastating to the children and us as parents. As our children lost the ability to tell us their wants and needs, we could sense their constant frustration. I suppose the best way to describe these waning months of their speech, it was sort of like they would have a stuttered sentence that they were never able to complete. We would see Noah and Lane try so very hard to tell us something, but they were never able to fully communicate with us. The countless hours of speech therapy perhaps only extended their abilities a few months. I would also say that emotionally this took one of the largest toll on us as parents. Not being able to hear your child's precious voice is truly devastating and something we miss terribly. They have also lost control of their bowels and bladders, which necessitates our children still being diapered. Their inability to clear oral secretion requires round-the-clock suctioning to prevent our children from drowning on their own saliva and secretions. Noah and Lane have also lost the ability to eat. Making the decision to take oral foods from your child that they once loved because the choking hazard is simply too high, is something no parent should have to do. We would spend hours carefully feeding the children, but eventually had to have a G-tube placed for safety and because Noah and Lane were losing too much weight. As far as activities that are important to our children, I think this was pretty much covered in some of my first answer. Children affected by Batten disease lose everything. But here's a list of some of the things that Noah and Lane used to like to do but cannot do any longer. Noah loved to play baseball and soccer, but he can no longer see the ball, run or kick the soccer ball, or even hold a bat. Noah used to have a fascination with trains. He loved to watch movies about trains. His favorite park had trains pass by every 20 minutes, and he loved playing with toy trains. All of this is now lost. Noah loved to play with his fraternal sisters, Lane and Emily. I guess the only saving grace here is that Noah never had to experience his siblings losing all of their abilities. Lane had to experience this with Noah, and Emily, Lane's unaffected twin, has had to watch both her brother and sister drift further and further away. Lane loved to dance on the ballet floor with her sister and classmates. We allowed her to continue doing this as long as we could, but eventually it became too great of a danger for her to continue. Lane was also a natural swimmer, loved the pool, the beach, any water she could find, including the kitchen sink. We actually delayed having Lane's G-tube put in against our doctor's orders because we wanted her to enjoy the last few months of summer swimming at the pool, as we knew it would be her last summer of swimming independently. When talking about how the symptoms have changed over time, all of our children's symptoms have changed so incrementally, you would not really notice from day to day as abilities were lost. It's only really when looking from month to month or quarter to quarter that the losses become real and very, very noticeable. In the beginning, it was a few mispronounced words or mixed up sentence structure. Now, in the end, it's silence. In the beginning, there was some mild squinting while looking at books or watching a movie. Now darkness. And in the beginning, a few clumsy stumbles, some scraped knees, and a few stitches. And now stillness. In the beginning, there was some mild coughing while eating. Now just the constant hum of the suction machine and the squeaky motor of the feeding pump. In the end, all abilities once mastered were lost and never regained. No matter how much we fought, doing everything we could, Noah and Lane are losing a tragically unwinnable battle against Batten disease. I'm going to close now, but I'd like to mention something. Decisions made by personnel at this agency matter. You do have a tough job, and we realize that. But I believe my daughter Lane should have had the chance to potentially participate in a clinical trial testing enzyme replacement therapy for Batten disease. People in this agency decided to delay approval for the trial for some reason. The same data package was taken to multiple sites in Europe, and children in Europe are now on therapy in the trial. Because of this delay here in the U.S., Lane has progressed and would no longer be eligible if and when this trial starts here at home. We need to do better for these kids here in the United States. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tracy. And hey, Tracy.
Just a quick, little different perspective from two kids in a terminal disease, probably in the latter third of that disease. So a good day for us is no seizures, and I see that was one of the lower reported outcomes here. But I don't want folks to underestimate that, because I think either the medications we give our kids or the damage caused by those seizures often can lead to some of the other symptoms that were mentioned. But in addition to no seizures, getting a smile from our kids is a good day. Our kids being able to regulate their body temperature on their own is a good day. having bowel and bladder movements is a good day for them. And not having sores when they come home from school or an outing because their myoclonus has caused them to bang into their wheelchairs. That's a good day too. So just a few things from perspective of a child later on in a disease.
And can I ask, Tracy, are all those things that you mentioned still achievable? Do you still notice those with your children? Are those rare events, or are they more common even if they're variable?
As far as seizures, I think Noah's he's older. I think he's past the point where he's having a lot of seizures now. There's so much brain atrophy, so the no seizures is more important for Lane. We still get more smiles from Lane. We don't see that with Noah anymore. The body temperature regulation is more of a problem with Noah than it is with Lane. Bowel and bladder is with both of them. And they both continue to, Noah more so has more myoclonus than Lane, but she's traveling down that path as well. And secretion, saliva management is also something that they're dealing with now.
Thanks. So we have one